Let me ask you something. Have you ever told yourself you were going to start eating healthier, and then you walked into your kitchen and the first thing you saw was a bag of chips sitting on the counter? You know what happened next. You ate the chips. Not because you're weak, not because you lack discipline, but because your environment made that the easiest possible choice. Here's the thing most people get wrong about habits. They think it's all about willpower. They think if they just try harder, push through, and stay motivated, the habits will stick. But willpower is a terrible strategy. It's like trying to drive across the country with a gas tank that keeps leaking. You might make it a few miles, but eventually you're going to be stranded on the side of the road wondering what went wrong. The truth is, the people who are most consistent with their habits aren't the ones with superhuman discipline. They're the ones who have designed their environment so that the right behavior is the path of least resistance. They've set things up so the habit practically runs on autopilot. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Let's start with a concept that changes everything once you really understand it. It's called friction. Friction is anything that stands between you and a behavior. It could be physical, like having to drive to the gym. It could be logistical, like needing to find your running shoes, fill your water bottle, and locate your headphones before you can go for a jog. Or it could be mental, like having to decide what workout to do before you even start. Every single one of those tiny obstacles is a decision point, and every decision point is an opportunity for your brain to say, you know what, maybe not today. This is why so many habits die. Not in some dramatic moment of failure, but in a quiet series of small frictions that slowly drain your motivation until the habit just fades away. Research backs this up in a big way. A study on healthy eating found that when a cafeteria rearranged its layout so that water was more visible and accessible than soda, water consumption went up by 25%. Nobody made a conscious decision to drink more water. Nobody exercised willpower. The environment just made water the easier choice. That's the power of friction, or more precisely, the power of removing it. There's another fascinating study that looked at how far people had to walk to get food in an office setting. Researchers placed candy dishes at varying distances from people's desks. When the dish was right on the desk, people ate an average of 9 pieces per day. When it was moved just 6 feet away, consumption dropped to 4 pieces. Same candy, same people, same desire. The only thing that changed was 6 feet of distance. That's how sensitive we are to friction, even when we don't realize it. So here's your first principle. If you want to build a good habit, reduce the friction. Make it as easy as possible to start. Let me give you some concrete examples. If you want to read more, put a book on your pillow every morning so it's the first thing you see when you go to bed. If you want to work out in the morning, sleep in your workout clothes. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it eliminates the step of getting changed, which is often just enough friction to make you hit snooze instead. If you want to eat healthier, prep your meals on Sunday so that when Wednesday hits and you're exhausted, the healthy option is sitting right there in the fridge, easier to grab than ordering takeout. If you want to meditate, put a cushion in the middle of your floor the night before. If you want to practice a language, set your phone's language to the one you're learning. The key insight here is that you're not relying on you to make the right decision in the moment. You're making the decision now, in advance, and then structuring the environment so that you just follows the path you've already laid out. Think of it as doing a favor for tomorrow's version of yourself. Today, you is the architect. Tomorrow, you is just the resident living in the building you designed. Now let's flip this around, because friction works both ways. If reducing friction helps you build good habits, then adding friction helps you break bad ones. Want to spend less time on your phone? Put it in another room. Literally. Not on the other side of the desk. In another room. The extra 10 seconds of walking it takes to go get it is often enough to break the automatic reach and scroll pattern. Want to stop snacking late at night? Don't keep snacks in the house. If you have to drive to the store to get chips, you're probably not going to do it at 10 p.m. Want to watch less TV? Unplug it after every use and put the remote in a drawer. That sounds extreme, but the 30 seconds of plugging it back in and finding the remote creates just enough of a pause for you to ask yourself, do I actually want to do this right now? This might sound overly simple, and that's exactly the point. We overcomplicate habit change. We buy apps. We create elaborate systems. We write manifestos in our journals. But the most effective changes are often the most boring ones. Move something, remove something, put something where you can see it. That's it. Let's talk about the second major principle, which is visual cues. Your environment is constantly sending you signals about what to do next. Most of the time, you don't even notice these signals consciously, but your brain is picking up on every single one of them. Think about what happens when you walk into a movie theater. You smell popcorn, and suddenly you want popcorn, even if you just ate dinner. That smell is a cue. Or think about what happens when you sit on your couch and grab the remote. You didn't plan to watch TV, you just sat down, and the cue triggered the behavior. Or what about walking into your bathroom? You probably brush your teeth without thinking about it because the toothbrush is right there, staring at you, cueing the behavior. These triggers are running your life whether you're aware of them or not. Now, here's where this gets powerful. You can deliberately plant cues in your environment that trigger the habits you want. Want to practice guitar? Don't keep it in a case in the closet. Put it on a stand in the middle of your living room where you'll see it every time you walk by. Want to journal every morning? Leave the journal open with a pen on top of it right next to your coffee maker. Want to drink more water? Put a full water bottle on your desk before you go to bed, so it's the first thing you see when you sit down to work. Want to take your vitamins? Put them right next to the coffee mug so they're impossible to miss during your morning routine. These visual cues work because they tap into something fundamental about how your brain operates. Your brain is constantly scanning your environment for signals about what to do next. When it sees the guitar, it thinks about playing. When it sees the journal, it thinks about writing. You're essentially programming your own behavior by programming your environment. And there's a flip side to this too. If you want to stop a behavior, hide the cues. If you're trying to eat less junk food, don't just resist the cookies on the counter. Put them in a cabinet, in an opaque container, on the highest shelf. Out of sight genuinely does mean out of mind when it comes to habitual behavior. If social media is your weakness, delete the apps from your phone's home screen. You can still access them through the app library, but removing the visual cue of that little icon breaks the automatic see it, tap it loop. Now, let's go deeper with a third principle that most people miss entirely. It's what I call environment zones. The idea is simple but incredibly effective. You want to associate specific spaces with specific behaviors. Here's why this matters. When you do everything in one place, your brain has no clear signal about what mode it should be in. If you work, eat, watch Netflix, and scroll social media all from the same spot on your couch, your brain is getting mixed signals constantly. When you sit down to work, part of your brain is thinking about Netflix. When you try to relax, part of your brain is thinking about work. Everything bleeds together, and nothing gets your full attention. The fix is to create dedicated zones, even in a small space. Maybe your desk is only for work. Your couch is only for relaxation. The kitchen table is for eating, not for scrolling your phone. If you live in a studio apartment, you can even use smaller cues to differentiate zones. Maybe you have a specific lamp you only turn on when you're working, or a particular playlist that only plays during focus time, or even a specific hat you put on. I know that sounds silly, but your brain latches onto these consistent signals surprisingly fast. The specific cues matter less than the consistency. Over time, your brain starts associating that space or that signal with that specific behavior, and the habit becomes almost automatic. I experienced this myself when I started working from home. For the first few months, I worked from the couch, and my productivity was terrible. I'd start the day with good intentions, but within an hour, I'd be watching videos or browsing the internet. The couch was too strongly associated with relaxation. The moment I set up a dedicated desk and made a rule that the desk was only for focused work, everything shifted. I didn't become more disciplined. I just stopped fighting my environment. I want to share a quick story that illustrates how powerful environment design can be on a larger scale. There was a researcher named Anne Thorndike who conducted a study in a hospital cafeteria. She didn't give anyone a lecture about healthy eating. She didn't hand out pamphlets or run a wellness program. All she did was rearrange the cafeteria. She put water in more locations throughout the room, including next to every food station, and she moved the salad bar to a more prominent position near the entrance. Over the next 3 months, soda sales dropped by 11%, and salad consumption went up significantly. The staff didn't know they were part of a study. They didn't consciously change their behavior. The environment changed, and their habits followed. This is the core idea I want you to take away. You are a product of your environment far more than you are a product of your willpower. The question isn't whether your environment shapes your behavior. It absolutely does. The question is whether you're going to be intentional about how it shapes you, or whether you're going to leave it to chance. So let me give you a practical framework you can use right now. I call it the environment audit, and it takes about 15 minutes. Step 1. Pick one habit you're trying to build. Just one. Maybe it's reading, exercising, meditating, or writing. Step 2. Walk through your physical space and identify every point of friction between you and that habit. Where are the materials you need? How many steps does it take to start? What decisions do you have to make before you can begin? Write all of these down. Step 3. Eliminate as many of those friction points as possible. Put the materials in plain sight. Reduce the number of steps to 1 or 2. Make the decisions in advance so you don't have to think about them in the moment. Then do the reverse for a habit you want to stop. Identify the cues that trigger the unwanted behavior and make them invisible. Add friction between you and the behavior. Make it harder, slower, and less convenient. The goal is to create a gap between the impulse and the action, because that gap is where your better judgment has a chance to step in. Here's a bonus step that most people skip. After you've done the audit, check your digital environment too. Your phone, your computer, your browser. These are environments just as much as your kitchen or your living room. What apps are on your home screen? What tabs do you leave open? What notifications pop up and pull your attention? Apply the same principles. Put the tools you want to use front and center. Hide or delete the ones that distract you. Turn off notifications that trigger mindless behavior. Let me be real with you about something. This isn't glamorous advice. Nobody is going to make a motivational montage about you putting a book on your pillow or moving your phone to another room. But this is the stuff that actually works. The people who maintain habits for years and decades aren't doing it through raw willpower. They've built environments that make the right choice the easy choice. They've spent 10 minutes rearranging their space so they can save hours of internal debate and resistance. There's one more thing I want to address, because I know someone is thinking it. What about when I'm not in my controlled environment? What about travel or going to a friend's house, or when life gets chaotic? Great question. The answer is that environment design is your foundation, not your only tool. When your usual environment is disrupted, that's when other strategies kick in, things like scaling your habits down to their smallest possible version so you can maintain consistency even when conditions aren't perfect. But that's a whole topic on its own. For now, I want you to focus on the space where you spend the most time, your home, your office, your desk. These are the places where the majority of your habits play out every single day, and they're the places where environment design will have the biggest impact. Let me leave you with this thought. Every room you walk into is a set of instructions. Your kitchen is telling you what to eat. Your living room is telling you how to spend your evening. Your bedroom is telling you what to do before you sleep. Right now, those instructions are probably random, shaped by whatever was convenient or whatever came with the apartment. But you can rewrite those instructions. You can redesign those spaces so that the default behavior, the thing you do without thinking, is the thing that moves your life forward. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more discipline. You need an environment that makes the right thing the easy thing. Start with one room. Start with one habit. Rearrange one thing today. Because once your environment is working for you instead of against you, everything changes. The habits stop feeling like a fight and start feeling like something that just happens. And that, honestly, is the whole game.